what's it like when you were doing Portal 2 and Portal, the ending songs, and you had to switch from your opera voice to the sort of like the very light voice that GLaDOS does in the songs?
And you know I did that in the same day. It was the same recording session, which was very interesting. Not for Still Alive. For Still Alive, they called me into the studio separate. They said, you're going to be singing. I was very rested. But when I went into the studio to record Want You Gone, I recorded Want You Gone. It took us about 2 hours to, for everybody to be satisfied. And then I was told that I was going to record all this other stuff. And I hadn't been, forewarned about this. So I had just been singing for 2 hours, and then I had to sing for 2 more hours with a completely different voice, and they hadn't given me any warning. So, one always wants to do one's best, and I loved the music, and I liked what Mike Moraski had written, but oddly enough, I sort of felt that, how should I say this? I wish personally that they had had a separate recording session for Mike's vocal music. But as it turned out, everyone seems to be pleased with the outcome. So that's good. But it was a lot to do in one 4-hour recording session. And I think sometimes that, I know you're a singer. Yeah. You know about singing. Liz is a singer. Yes, there's some singers in here. That the voice is not like the piano. You can play the piano for 8 hours, and yeah, maybe your hands are tired, but, the piano is no worse for wear. But if you sing for 8 hours, the voice gets tired. So I wish that they had given me a little bit more rest time to do all that. But, that's how it works out. Yes?
So, speaking of tired voices, on Portal 1, at the very end, when it's, you versus GLaDOS, and you're getting rid of all the, the chorus, did they have you try out for the voice of the Red Rage Corps before they got Mike Patton to come?
Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And I just couldn't sound mean enough. I couldn't. They needed somebody else. Well, they had me do stuff and try out different things, and it's like, I'm a soprano. I can't help it. That was, I couldn't get there. So, yeah, a good question.
I had to see who played that voice at the end. I was like, there's no way.
No, well, it wasn't me. Yes, and then Andrew. Andrew, you're next. So you come up, and then Andrew comes up.
Bit of a two-part question. There have been a lot of, computerized voices, computers using voices in pop culture going over the years. Did you feel like you drew on any of those for doing GLaDOS?
Oh yes.
And
how?
And how does it feel, thinking forward now, to know that you will always be compared to HAL 9000?
Well, I'm very pleased to be compared to him because he did a wonderful job. And, he's still a working actor. He's still working. He's still recording stuff. And I'm very gratified to be mentioned in the same breath. Very gratified. But I did. And, it wasn't at the beginning of the first Portal that I made this connection, but it was like, oh, I'm voicing a computer. Well, that's like HAL. Because, of course, someone my generation knows all about, Stanley Kubrick and bam, 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 etc., So, that's my Also sprach Zarathustra rendition. I'm sure Richard Strauss is rolling over in his grave, but That's okay. Oh, right, Andrew. I want Andrew's question.
What was your inspiration for the voice of the personalities of the turrets?
Well, they decided that they wanted something cute. They wanted the turrets to sound sweet, but be deadly. I mean, that really is what they wanted. Well, I would feel bad about killing anybody. But it wasn't my choice, you know. But they did, you know, they didn't have money to hire another actor. They wanted me to do something else. So I gave them sort of a, you know, here's some samples, which ones you like. And I think of that little voice as sort of a cute little chipmunk voice. And that's what they wanted. So I was like, okay, I'll do that. So thanks, Andrew. Yes, ma'am.
What's your opinion on Team Fortress 2, and what's your favorite line for the announcer?
Well, I must say that I think they're called shooter games or personal shooter games or something like that. First person shooter. I heard that expression before. Yeah, that's it. Thank you. That kind of game doesn't really appeal to me. I should tell you all that my husband is a big Myst fan. Myst and Riven and all of those. And those games, I also would, you know, sit at his shoulder and he'd say, Ellen, look at this. And he'd take me through the paths and see the flowers blooming. And, you know, I find those games so beautiful. So, you know, it just doesn't appeal to me to shoot anything. You know, and I'm uncoordinated. You know, I don't have good eye-hand coordination. So it's like, you know, what do they want me to do? I mean, I would just constantly be killed. I would never get past the first test, you know? They'd just kill me and that'd be it. So I can't say. Now the announcer in Team Fortress 2, she's so impatient. You know, she's so impatient with everybody. And I have to say something that the Valve guy said to me recently. You know, I've been doing a lot of auditions, you know, for them for different parts. They haven't used me for anything in Death of the Ancients, I think it's called, Dota, Death of the Ancients. John's done voices for that. But they said that they were saving me for something more poisonous. Yeah, that's how they think of me, that I just, you know, because the announcer, her voice is very different from GLaDOS' voice, but sort of internally, she isn't that much different from GLaDOS, I don't think. She's impatient, and she's abusive, and she's angry. So I don't know. I don't think I have any favorite expressions of her. She seems. She doesn't seem to be vulnerable. You know, there's no vulnerability about her. She's just hard as nails. I like GLaDOS better. I do. I really do. Yes, sir. The game.